The windows are down, and the warm air rushes through the car. It smells like hot pavement, cut grass, and gasoline from the last station we passed. The seat beneath you is already warm from the sun. Somewhere ahead, a truck hums along the highway, and the tires beneath you make that steady sound that seems to go on forever. The radio is low. A song drifts in and out as the car moves between towns. The sound changes every few miles. One station fades, another appears. You hear a voice, a few notes of music, then only static before the signal returns again. The road stretches ahead in a long silver line. Beside you, someone unfolds a paper map. The corners crackle softly. A finger traces a route through places you have never seen before. Small towns, exit numbers, names that sound familiar even when they are not. Outside the window, telephone poles rise and fall in a slow rhythm. The world feels large. In the summer of the 1980s, many American families spend their vacations this way, packed together inside one car, carrying suitcases, snacks, and the hope of somewhere waiting ahead. You are not there yet. That is the feeling. The engine keeps its steady song. The sun moves across the dashboard. A cooler shifts slightly in the back seat. Someone asks how much farther it is, even though the answer never seems to matter. The road itself becomes the destination. For a little while, nothing else exists. No messages, no screens, no clocks that need attention. Only the highway, the warm wind, and the feeling that the whole country is unfolding 1 mile at a time. You can almost hear the tires again. And as the miles begin to gather behind us, something settles quietly inside the car. The road no longer feels unfamiliar. The sound of the engine becomes part of the air itself. The movement of the tires creates a rhythm that stays with you, mile after mile, town after town. For the next little while, you and I are going to take this trip again. Not just the places along the highway, but the feeling of it, the waiting, the excitement, the small moments that happen between one destination and the next. We are going to sit in the same seats, watch the same scenery drift past the windows, and follow the road from its first miles to its final turn, because a summer road trip in 1980 seconds America is never only about where you are going, it is about becoming a passenger inside your own memories. Somewhere ahead, there is the part everyone remembers. The roadside stops, the songs on the radio, the moments that seem ordinary then, yet stay with you for decades afterward. We will get there together, and somewhere along the way, we may discover that this feeling quietly slips away, not all at once, not because of one change. The world simply grows faster, roads become shorter, time becomes tighter, the journey itself begins to disappear, but for now the car is still moving. The map is still folded across someone's lap, the cooler is still packed, the windows are still open to the summer air. If you love returning to these small forgotten moments, consider subscribing to The Way We Were so you do not miss the next one, because some journeys are measured in miles, others are measured in feelings, and this one is just beginning. The trip begins long before the car ever leaves the driveway. It begins in the quiet excitement that hangs over the house the night before. Suitcases sit open on beds, shoes wait by the door, a folded map rests on the kitchen table beside a set of car keys. The air feels different somehow, as if the whole house already knows that tomorrow will not be an ordinary day. You wake before the alarm. Morning sunlight slips through the curtains, and for a moment you forget where you are. Then you remember the trip, the road, the miles waiting outside. The house is unusually quiet. You walk into the kitchen and smell coffee brewing. Someone is already awake. The refrigerator door opens and closes. Ice cubes rattle into a cooler. A paper bag fills with sandwiches, fruit, and small boxes of crackers. Outside, the car waits in the driveway. The paint already feels warm from the early sun. The trunk stands open. Suitcases disappear inside one at a time. Blankets are folded. Pillows are squeezed into empty spaces. Somehow there is always room for one more bag. In the 1980s, many families travel in large station wagons, sedans, or vans that become temporary homes for hundreds of miles. The doors open. You choose your seat carefully because it may belong to you all day. The vinyl feels cool at first. The seat belt clicks into place. Someone adjusts the mirrors. Someone asks if everybody remembered the camera. The engine starts. That sound changes everything. The familiar driveway suddenly feels smaller. The neighborhood looks different through the car window. Houses pass by that you see every day, yet this morning they seem part of something larger. You are leaving. The streets are still quiet. Sprinklers turn slowly across front lawns. Newspapers wait at the ends of driveways. A dog watches from behind a fence as the car rolls toward the main road. Nobody talks very much at first. The excitement is still settling inside everyone. You hear the engine. You hear the soft rush of air through a slightly open window. You hear the turn signal clicking as the car reaches the highway entrance, and then it happens. The car climbs the ramp, the road widens, the city slowly falls behind. Ahead, the highway stretches farther. Then you can see, this is the first real feeling of the trip, not arrival, not vacation, just movement, the understanding that home is now somewhere behind you and the day has become larger than usual. The radio comes alive. You turn the dial slowly. One station plays rock music, another carries the morning news. Somewhere between them lives a burst of static that sounds almost comforting. The signal grows stronger, then fades again as miles begin to pass beneath the tires. Outside the windows, the world starts changing. Stores become fields, traffic becomes open road. Billboards rise beside the highway, promising motels, restaurants, and attractions still many miles away. Water towers stand over small towns, gas stations appear at exits and disappear again. The sun climbs higher, the air flowing through the windows becomes warmer. Hair moves in the breeze, the smell of gasoline, cut grass, and hot pavement mixes together in a way that belongs only to summer travel. A parent reaches over and adjusts the radio. Someone unfolds the map, the paper crackles softly, red lines cross entire states. Small circles mark towns you have never visited. Distances are measured not by minutes but by miles. The journey feels enormous. If you grew up in this era, you remember this feeling. The feeling that the world was opening one highway at a time. Hours have not passed yet. Nobody is tired. Nobody is asking when you will arrive. The cooler is still full. The snacks are untouched. Everything ahead remains possible. And then slowly, the trip begins to settle around you. The seat becomes familiar. The engine finds its rhythm. The road keeps moving forward, and you realize that you are no longer preparing to leave. You have already gone. The first excitement slowly softens. The highway no longer feels new. The neighborhood is long gone. The last familiar exit disappeared many miles ago, and now the road belongs entirely to the trip itself. The car finds its rhythm. The engine hums steadily beneath your feet. The tires create a sound that never fully leaves your ears. Air moves through the open windows, carrying the smell of warm fields, distant rain, and asphalt baking beneath the summer sun. You settle into your seat. Your legs stretch across the floorboard. A pillow finds its place against the door. Someone takes off their shoes. The cooler opens for the first time, releasing a burst of cold air that feels wonderful against the heat. The first snacks appear. A bag of chips moves from hand to hand. Crackers break softly. Sandwiches wrapped in wax. Paper unfold on laps. Ice rattles inside metal thermoses. The food tastes simple, but somehow it belongs perfectly to the road. Outside, America passes by one piece at a time. Long fields ripple beneath the sun. Barns stand alone against wide skies. Small towns appear suddenly, gathering around water towers and grain silos before fading again behind the car. Every few miles, another billboard rises beside the highway. Some advertise motels. Some promise the world's largest something. Some simply tell you that another state line is getting closer. During the 1980s, interstate highways carry millions of vacation travelers every summer, connecting small towns and distant destinations across the country. Inside the car, time changes. Nobody checks a phone because there is none to check. There are no maps glowing on a screen. No messages arriving every few minutes. The only information comes from road signs, radio stations, and the folded paper map that rests between the front seats. Someone asks how much farther. Someone else answers. The answer feels both important and completely meaningless because the trip itself has become the day. The radio continues its quiet work. One song finishes, another begins. Sometimes the signal fades into static before returning again. A familiar voice from a local station disappears as the car leaves one town and enters another. You collect songs without meaning too. Years later, one of them may still bring you back here. The sunlight moves slowly across the dashboard. Shadows shift inside the car. A hand rests outside the window, cutting gently through the rushing air. Sunglasses appear. The heat grows stronger. The seats become warmer beneath you. You begin noticing small things. The sound of a turn signal, the vibration of rough pavement, the way sunlight flickers through rows of trees, the shape of clouds building far ahead, the smell that enters the car after passing a farm. These details become the trip. There are moments when nobody speaks at all. The silence feels comfortable. Each person watches the world through their own window. Thoughts drift. The road continues. The miles pass quietly beneath the tires. If you grew up in this era, you remember this feeling, the feeling of simply being together. Without needing to fill every moment, eventually the first stop appears. A gas station rises beside the highway. The sign becomes visible from far away. Everyone seems to notice it at once. The car leaves the interstate and slows for the first time in hours. The sudden quiet feels strange. When the engine stops, the world changes. The air outside feels hotter than expected. Gravel crunches beneath your shoes. Gasoline mixes with the smell of warm pavement. Other travelers move around their own cars, stretching their legs beneath the bright afternoon sun. The station feels like a small island. Cold drinks wait inside coolers. Postcards spin slowly on metal racks. Road maps hang near the counter. The cashier greets people who may never return again. A full service station might still have an attendant who pumps the gas while the family walks inside. For a few minutes, nobody is traveling. Everyone simply stands still. Then, the doors close again. The seat feels familiar now. The engine starts. The highway returns, and something inside the trip changes once more. The excitement of leaving has become the comfort of traveling. The car no longer feels crowded. It feels shared. The road no longer feels endless. It feels welcoming. The miles begin to disappear faster. The sun grows higher, and somewhere ahead, waiting beyond the next exit, the heart of the journey slowly comes into view. And then, slowly, it changes. The afternoon arrives quietly. You do not notice the exact moment it happens. The sunlight simply grows softer. The shadows become longer. The road has been with you for so many miles that it now feels almost permanent. This is the part people remember, not the beginning, not the destination. This middle stretch becomes the heart of the trip. The windows remain open just enough to let the warm air inside. The breeze carries the scent of pine trees, hot earth, distant lakes, or salt air depending on where the road has taken you. The dashboard glows beneath the afternoon sun. Inside the car, everyone has become comfortable. Someone leans against the window and watches the landscape drift by. Someone else quietly sings along to the radio. A parent keeps one hand resting lightly on the steering wheel. The map lies folded beside them, no longer confusing, now simply guiding. The road feels endless in the best possible way. Billboards begin to promise places that sound almost magical: amusement parks, roadside attractions, diners with homemade pie, motels with swimming pools shaped like kidney beans. Every sign offers another possibility. Roadside attractions become a popular part of family travel during the 1980s, giving long drives small adventures. Between destinations, you begin counting things: red cars, state license plates, water towers, trucks carrying impossible loads. The games are simple, but they make the miles disappear. Laughter comes easily. Someone tells a story that everyone has heard before. Someone remembers a previous vacation. Someone points at a strange building beside the highway. The car fills with conversations that seem unimportant at the time but somehow stay alive for decades. Outside, clouds gather in the distance. A brief summer rain appears ahead. The windshield wipers begin their steady motion. The smell of rain rises from the pavement. The highway turns darker beneath the tires. For a few miles, the world becomes quiet and gray. Then the storm passes, sunlight returns, steam rises from the road. The air becomes cooler for a little while. You can almost feel that moment even now. If you grew up in this era, you remember this feeling, the feeling that the road itself was alive. Eventually another stop appears. Perhaps it is a roadside diner with large windows and cold air inside. Perhaps it is a family restaurant just off the interstate. The parking lot holds cars from many states. Travelers enter carrying the dust and heat of the highway with them. Inside, everything feels welcome. Ice clinks in tall glasses. Coffee cups rest beside saucers. The smell of hamburgers, fries, and pie fills the room. The booths feel cool against sunburned skin. For a little while, the journey pauses again. You look through the restaurant window and see the family car waiting outside. It sits quietly beneath the sun as if resting. Before the next miles begin, the food tastes better than usual. Perhaps it is the travel. Perhaps it is the hunger. Perhaps it is simply being together. Nobody rushes. There is still plenty of road ahead. Back inside the car, the afternoon slowly turns toward evening. The sunlight changes color. Golden fields glow beside the highway. Trees cast longer shadows. The radio plays songs that seem softer now. The air entering through the windows loses Some of its heat, the destination begins to feel closer. Road signs mention towns you recognize, exit numbers grow smaller. Someone sits up and looks ahead more often. The map unfolds again, excitement quietly returns, but this excitement feels different. It is gentler. The journey has already given you something valuable. You have shared hours that belong only to this car, this road, and these people. No photographs can fully capture it. No souvenir can hold it. It exists only in the feeling of watching America roll by through a car window, the feeling of songs that become memories, the feeling of miles that somehow bring people closer together. And for a little while, everything outside the windows seems beautiful. The sky grows wider, the light becomes softer. The road stretches forward like a ribbon disappearing into the distance. Nobody wants to say it aloud, but everyone understands. This is the part that will remain. Years later, certain songs will return you here. Certain smells will return you here. The sound of tires on a highway may suddenly place you back inside this very seat. Because this is not simply travel. It is a memory being created while you are still living inside it, and then slowly it changes. The sun begins to sink, the air becomes cooler. The road ahead starts to glow beneath the evening light, and the long day gently prepares to let go. The evening arrives almost without warning. The sunlight that once filled the entire car now slips quietly toward the horizon. The dashboard glows in softer colors. The air through the windows feels cooler against your skin. The long day begins to exhale. The road is still moving, but something has changed. The conversations grow quieter. The excitement that carried the morning and afternoon settles into a gentle tiredness. The miles already traveled seem larger than the miles still ahead. Outside the windows, the world turns golden. Fields shine for a few brief moments before fading into shadow. Small towns light their street lamps. Neon motel signs begin to glow beside the highway. Restaurant windows shine warmly against the coming darkness. The sky becomes enormous. Orange fades into pink, pink fades into blue. The first stars quietly appear above the road. Inside the car, everyone finds their own kind of silence. Someone leans against a pillow. Someone watches the passing headlights. Someone has already fallen asleep. The radio is lower now. Songs drift through the cabin like distant memories. The voice of a late evening disc jockey rises softly between songs, keeping company with travelers who are still moving through the night. Many car radios in the 1980s still relied entirely on local stations, causing music and voices to fade as drivers crossed from one town into another. The signal comes and goes. One station disappears. Another takes its place. Static fills the spaces between them. Even that sound becomes comforting. The highway itself begins to change. The bright heat of the afternoon is gone. The pavement reflects headlights. Road signs seem brighter against the darkness. Gas stations appear like small islands of light surrounded by endless miles. If you grew up in this era, you remember this feeling, the feeling of being half awake in the back seat while the road continues around you. The interior of the car becomes its own little world. Dashboard lights glow green or amber. The clock shines softly. The sound of the turn signal feels louder now. A blanket appears. Someone adjusts the air vent. Someone whispers rather than speaks. The road outside seems slower. The world inside feels smaller and safer. Eventually, the signs begin to look familiar. The destination may be close. A motel exit appears. A beach town approaches. Grandparents' names enter the conversation. Maybe a campground waits just beyond the next turn. Everyone sits up a little straighter. The final miles always feel different. You have spent an entire day moving forward, and now the journey gently begins to gather itself. The suitcases are still packed. The cooler is nearly empty. The map has folded and unfolded so many times that its creases feel permanent. You realize that the road has changed you, not in some dramatic way, just quietly. The long hours together have softened everyone. Small disagreements have disappeared. Stories have been told. Songs have been shared. Silence has become comfortable. The car pulls off the highway. The tires touch a different road. Streetlights replace the open darkness. Buildings appear. Trees line quiet streets. The engine slows after, carrying you all day, and then the car stops. For a moment, nobody moves. The engine clicks softly as it cools. Crickets sing somewhere nearby. Warm night air enters through the open doors. Everyone steps out slowly, stretching tired legs and looking around. The trip is not over. The vacation may only be beginning, but the road itself has come to an end. You gather the bags. You close the trunk. You hear the doors lock. And somewhere inside, you already know that these hours in the car will remain long after the destination fades, because the road trip was never only about arriving. It was about the spaces between places, the songs between radio stations, the miles between towns, the quiet moments shared between people who may never sit together quite. This way again, the stars shine overhead, the engine is silent now. The highway continues somewhere beyond the darkness, carrying other families toward their own memories, and you stand there for one last moment, feeling the warmth of the day still resting on the car. Some journeys end very softly. You simply step out of the car and leave a piece of yourself somewhere along the road. Years pass quietly, the highways remain, the gas stations stay open, the road still stretches from one coast to the other. But somewhere along the way, the feeling begins to change, not all at once, not because of one invention or one decision. The world simply starts moving faster. Paper maps slowly disappear from glove compartments. Voices on local radio stations become fewer. The small roadside attractions begin to close. Family-owned motels lose their bright signs. The long pauses between towns grow shorter as highways widen and exits multiply. The journey becomes easier, and somehow it becomes smaller. Satellite navigation eventually tells us every turn before we reach it. Phones travel with us, messages follow us onto the highway. Music no longer fades between towns because thousands of songs now ride silently inside our pockets. We lose the static, we lose the waiting, we lose the small uncertainty that once made every trip feel like an adventure. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, many independent roadside businesses begin disappearing as large chains spread along major highways. The old signs fade, the diners close, the little gas stations that knew every traveler by sight slowly vanish. Families still take vacations, cars become quieter, air conditioning becomes stronger, the roads become safer in many ways, yet the hours inside the car begin to change. Children watch screens, parents answer calls. The world that once stayed outside the windows now rides along with us, and perhaps that is what disappeared most quietly. The feeling of being unreachable. For a few summer days in the 1980s, the road asked very little from you. There was no place to be except where the highway carried you. No one could interrupt the journey. Time stretched wider. Boredom became imagination. Silence became conversation. If you grew up in this era, you remember this feeling, not because every trip was perfect. Cars overheated, children argued, rain fell, directions were missed, but the road belonged entirely to the people inside the car, and somewhere between the radio stations, the roadside diners, and the miles of open highway, a small part of American life quietly slipped away. The roads are still there, but the feeling has become harder to find. Maybe you remember a morning like this. A suitcase standing beside the front door, a cooler waiting in the kitchen, the sound of a car engine warming up in the driveway while the sun is still low above the neighborhood. Maybe you remember the exact seat you always chose, the back corner by the window, the middle seat where you could see between the front seats, the place where the sunlight always found you during the afternoon. Perhaps you remember a parent driving with one hand resting on the wheel. Perhaps you remember a grandparent unfolding the map. Maybe you remember a brother or sister asleep beside you while the highway quietly carried all of you forward. The destination may already be gone. The motel may have closed. The roadside restaurant may no longer stand. The songs may only appear occasionally on an old radio station, but the feeling remains because memory often keeps the journey and lets the details fade. You may not remember every town. You may not remember every highway or every exit number, yet you remember the warmth of the seat beneath you, the smell of summer air entering the windows, the sound of tires humming against the pavement late in the day. If you grew up in this era, you remember this feeling, the feeling of being together, without needing anything else. Perhaps the greatest gift of those long summer drives was not the vacation waiting at the end. It was the hours spent in between, the conversations that had nowhere to go, the silences that never felt uncomfortable, the simple understanding that everyone was sharing the same road. And maybe that is why these memories stay with us. Because they remind us that life once moved slowly enough for us to notice it. A passing field, a fading radio station, a sunset through the windshield, a family car disappearing down a summer highway, and somewhere inside those miles, we quietly became who we are. Some feelings do not last, but they are never really gone. The road is still out there tonight. Somewhere, headlights are moving through the darkness. A radio is playing softly between distant towns. Warm summer air is slipping through an open window, and somewhere inside all of us, that long drive still continues. The sound of the tires, the folded map, the cooler between the seats, the songs that fade into static. The feeling that the whole country is waiting just beyond the next exit. If this journey brought back a memory, leave it in the comments. Tell us about the family car, the destination, the song on the radio, or the road that still lives in your heart. And if you would like to return to more forgotten moments like this, consider subscribing to The Way We Were so we can take another journey together. Some feelings don't last, but they're never really gone. So before you go, think about this: which summer road trip do you still carry with you? And which forgotten moment should we bring back next?